Good day, everyone. Welcome to our concluding session of SGI Talks series of this year. It gives me a great pleasure to introduce to you Engineer Abdulaziz Al-Subayhi, an energy efficiency specialist at the Saudi Energy Efficiency Center. We'll be talking today about buildings and energy efficient buildings. I'll be your host for this session. My name is Mshari Al-Saud. Please.
Thank you.
Well, good afternoon again, Abdulaziz. And before we start, the 2022 Global Status Report of the last year's COP27 indicated that buildings and constructions account for 34% of energy demand. And that's why we really need to focus on enhancing energy performance, enhancing the energy performance of buildings, increasing investments to decarbonizing our buildings and construction, and as well decreasing the carbon footprint of this whole value chain. But before getting into that discussion, I always like to start the session with a definition. So what do we really mean by energy efficient buildings?
Thank you. So when it comes to energy efficiency, and in simple terms, is basically using less energy to perform the same output. So when we talk about energy efficient buildings, it's basically using less demand to either cooling or heating buildings and appliances and products within the building.
So this is in general terms.
Yes.
What do we mean by energy efficient buildings? Would you be able to give us a little bit more information on how do we enhance the energy efficiency of buildings?
Okay, that's great. So basically, Saudi Arabia has done a lot of efforts when it comes to rationalizing the energy consumption in the building sector and other sectors as well in the demand side. So we started initially in 2010 upon the establishment of the Saudi Energy Efficiency Center, and this was our goal initially to rationalize the increase of consumption in this sector. And if we look closely at the building sector in Saudi, of course, it's a growing sector. So the number of buildings last year that are constructed in existing buildings have increased more and have grown more by 40% since 2012.
It's becoming like a workshop. Saudis and Riyadh especially is becoming like a workshop.
Yeah, number of buildings have been constructed every year and more and more. And of course, with the increase in the growth of number of buildings, there is an increase in demand. But we had to tackle this issue early on since 2010. And what I mean by this is that we prioritize the subsectors and products within the building sector that drive the demand in this sector. And if I were to cluster all of our efforts in the sector to decarbonize the sector, I would say that we've worked mainly on 4 main pillars that reduce the consumption of this sector. First of which is the development of standards and regulations for either the building envelope as a whole or the energy-consuming products that drive the demand within the building.
Such as ACs and lighting
and
other equipment.
Other consuming products. Yes,
so,
exactly. The second thing is that we've invested heavily on human capacity building. And this is very important because let's say you live in the most efficient home, but your behaviors are inefficient, then you will consume more energy that you could have avoided in the first place. The third pillar is we've taken this a step further and we've launched incentive schemes for end user so that we incentivize them to either purchase more efficient the most energy consuming product within the building sector, and they can take a role in reducing emissions as well, or another incentive scheme for replacing all the existing, the most efficient, the most consuming product in the sector. The fourth pillar would be addressing the existing building stock, and it's a huge building stock. And we did this through the launch of the Saudi ESCO, or Energy Services Company, Tershid, and they've done a great job while addressing the existing building stock as a whole. At the same time, we had to ensure that enablers are set in place. We had the required set of infrastructure, legal, financial enablers as well, and the right set of expertise, so we can ensure that we fast-track our progress towards reducing the emissions in the sector.
Amazing. So let's dive into each of those pillars. So, for example, you've mentioned the first pillar is related to establishing the appropriate standards and regulatory framework.
Yes.
So could you please elaborate a little bit on this? And then we'll go into each of the pillars to have a more holistic approach on what are the key enablers for achieving energy efficient buildings?
Sure, great. So when it comes to the standards, since the establishment of the center, we've developed 29 energy efficiency standards and regulations. And what I mean by this, let's give it an example. So if we look at the building sector, and since we live in a hot climate countries, then the most consuming product in the building sector is air conditioners. So around 65% of the electricity consumed in this sector goes for air conditioner, followed by lighting products and white goods as well by 11% and 10% respectively. So through the continuous development of standards, we set minimum energy performance requirement for energy efficiency consuming products. Whether this product is locally manufactured or imported to Saudi Arabia, it has to meet that certain threshold. And with continuous improvements of these minimum requirements, we naturally phase out the inefficient products from the market, and we promote efficient technologies and allow the industry to invest in R&D and actually improve their technology to be purchased by end users. So if we take the example of the most consuming product in the buildings, which is air conditioners, we've increased this minimum requirement by 57% between 2012 and 2018.
57% of what? Of
energy efficiency requirement of the minimum. So an example, if you have an AC that has been manufactured in 2018, so by minimum, it's more efficient by 57% than an AC that's manufactured in 2012. And we continuously improve and include more products within this sector, so we reduce the amount of energy used to perform the same output.
And here we can see the power, I mean, of regulations and standards on transitioning to a more sustainable practices. If we connect this with the incentive programs, how would you incentivize people to be more aware and go to purchase products that are have better ratings for energy performance?
Okay, so this is two elements of what you're speaking about. So the first element is the awareness aspect.
Yes.
So what we did is we launched national level awareness campaigns for end users, because not all individuals or tenants or individuals know what energy efficiency is and what are the right practices they can conduct within their buildings while actually utilizing these equipment to save energy, or even upon purchase. So as a result of the standard, what we did is that we presented the technical information in a very simple manner to end users by a labeling scheme.
Yeah.
So nine of the most energy-consuming products within this sector have a mandatory label that has to be presented in the market for end users to make the right decision and compare between product. So if you go, let's say, buy any kind of product, you see multiple labels, then you know which is more efficient than the other. So you make the best decision upon purchase and save energy.
Do you do the efforts of educating people about the impact of purchasing more efficient equipments on their economics and their bills, monthly bills, and so on?
Yes,
do you do any efforts in that?
Yes, yes. Through the national awareness campaigns, we provide sometimes a comparison between if you purchase an equipment with this level of efficiency and another equipment that is more efficient, then you will result in savings of this.
Yeah, because sometimes more efficient equipments require a little bit more higher capital investments in purchasing, but the operational expense of that specific equipment can have over time reduced influence on
yeah, exactly.
So we've talked about standards, we've talked about awareness, incentive programs. What about retrofitting old buildings?
So when it comes to retrofitting existing buildings, and I'm going to quote Dr. Mohammed Muafa, he presented in SGI last week, and he mentioned that through the efforts of the National Energy Services Company, Tershid, they've managed to address more than 22,000 buildings and facilities in the existing building stock. So through upgrades of energy-consuming products or applying energy smart systems as well. They've also made changes and replaced lighting bulbs in almost all of Saudi Arabia's street lights. And the result of these savings is very huge. And he mentioned that the energy saved is almost equivalent to powering almost 250,000 housing units for a whole year. But if I may add to a couple of the talking points. So in terms of the human capacity building, the second pillar, we also created an application for end users so that they can basically scan the label for the energy efficiency consuming product, and they can validate this information. So we had to ensure that the end user can conduct as part of the testing and inspection processes. Yeah. And what happens if this information is not matching the actual label? With a click of a button, he can raise a flag about this product, and then government entities can engage and correct this information. But not only that. Once you scan the equipment, we provide a list of all energy efficient equipment that are available in the market. So you know, okay, I'm buying this equipment, it's at this level, but then there are many, let's say 100 or 120 more efficient products that are available in the market. And this is a good tool for the end user to not only be aware about the consumption of the product, but also engage with the government to ensure that these testing and inspection processes take place. Another element is that when it comes to the standards, we develop the standards, but we also have to ensure that these standards are being met.
Yeah.
And how do we do this? Through inspection processes. And
during the compliance.
Yes.
And working with other national stakeholders and so on. Yeah.
Yes, exactly, yes. And what we do is that we conduct visits either in local production lines, in local markets, or in customs as well. And what we do is we draw samples and test them ourselves. So we've conducted more than 100,000 inspection visits just to ensure that these equipment and the information displayed through the label is actually correct for the end user to purchase something that he's sure he's going to save energy while purchasing.
Okay, amazing. So beyond these, I mean, I myself was a beneficiary of the incentive programs. I purchased an AC with the proper labeling, and even it was promoted from these local suppliers that if you got this AC, you can have this discount on it, which is incentivizing individuals to purchase. So,
but you know how many people actually took advantage of this initiative? So we launched it between 2000 or December 2018 and 2021. So basically, we incentivize end users to purchase, as you mentioned, products that have higher efficiency than in the market, or minimum available in the market. So by the end of this initiative, around 125,000 people got benefited from this initiative, and almost 295,000 units sold within that initiative.
That's a great number. I mean, we have so little time left, and I have a lot of questions. Going beyond these four pillars that you've mentioned, what are other opportunities and investment opportunities that can incentivize and accelerate the efforts in the decarbonization of building sector?
Personally, I think there are two investment opportunities, and these investment opportunities can differ from one country to another. But when we talk about Saudi Arabia and the current efforts that we have, as I mentioned, Tershid is doing a great job addressing the existing building stock, but the existing building stock is huge.
Yeah.
There are opportunities in the commercial sector and residential sector as well, possibly. Another thing is that since we conduct our own inspection and testing activities, and we've tested 4,900 products, and we ensure that all manufacturers have to conduct testing to ensure that this product consumes this level of efficiency, then there is a need for testing laboratories in the region or in Saudi Arabia as well for all energy consuming products, whether it be high capacity air conditioners or low capacity air conditioners or lighting products as well. So because all of them have to register at the national database at the Saudi standards to issue that certificate and that label. So there's a requirement for testing as well. So I think these are two great opportunities when it comes to investment.
Two things that I want to touch upon as well. One is the role of behaviors and lifestyles into this whole story. If you could elaborate on it a little bit, and I'll keep the other question for the last 30 seconds as well.
Okay, so when it comes to the behavior, behavior is very important. So you can save further energy or further energy that you're supposed to save. But and we think that all levels of individuals or of all age groups can take a role in also saving energy. That's why in Saudi we've launched an awareness campaign targeting kids, kids from 4 to 12 years. Because we want them to actually know the energy efficient practices and apply them as well. And I think that's it.
Okay. Well, a follow-up question, not my last question, but a follow-up question. In order for me to adjust my behavior, I should have visibility on my performance and data. Are you doing as a center? I know there are efforts in the country that provide more transparency and accessibility for end users to know their performance. Is the center doing any kind of effort in that scheme or not?
Yeah, within the same application that you could scan the QR code, you would actually know what this energy consuming product would consume in a yearly manner in kilowatt hour. And you can compare this consumption with other products as well. Yeah. And then you can simply calculate what is the difference if I'm purchasing this product or the other product as well.
So the last question, we're getting a bit over time here, but the last question is this is about achieving the bare minimum. How do we achieve excellence and go beyond just the bare minimum?
So we developed the Saudi Building Code in Saudi Arabia, and so all types of buildings, whether it's residential, governmental, or commercial, that are newly constructed have to abide by the bare minimum of these requirements. But there are other codes in Saudi Arabia that include the Saudi Building Code as the base, but include other measures to become more efficient.
Improve, like some international standards and the use of materials and so on.
Yes, exactly.
With that, we end our session. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and insights. Please join me to thank my guest here. Thank you very much.